Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we are continuing our ranking of classic Doctor Who and modern Doctor Who seasons and series from worst to best. And we are at the number 2 spot on the list. What a journey it's been. So, my second favorite Doctor Who season of all time, which I have to say is what I think is objectively the best season of Doctor Who ever made. If I was being completely objective, I think this is the best season of all time. I think it's the best made. It has just got so many classics, masterpieces. There are no bad stories. There's no mediocre stories. There's no even just good stories. Every single story this season is great to amazing masterpiece. Nothing falls below great. It just happens to be my second favorite. There is one season that I just subjectively like more for a variety of reasons I'll discuss in that video. But number 2 on the list is the legendary season 13. Tom Baker's second season in the role. And it is just phenomenal. You have Tom Baker as the Doctor, Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith, who is my favorite companion. And they're just one of the best TARDIS teams together. You're right in the middle of the Hinchcliffe era, which, you know, if you're a Classic Who fan, you know that is a legendary era. You have Bob Holmes as your script editor and writing stories for the show. I think he's the best writer the show has ever had. You just have this perfect storm of all these amazing things converging on Doctor Who at the same time. And you create this season that is just amazing with this wonderful run of stories. You have Terror of the Zygons, which could be slightly overrated. I don't know if I call it a masterpiece, but if it's not, it's close. Part of this is just, I'm not as big into the Zygons as some people are. I just don't get into them as much as some people do. I've never been a bit of fan of them in any of their appearances. They're great in this story. I just don't particularly care for them, but they're executed well in this story. I like how it ties in with the legend of the Loch Ness Monster. I like that it's another unit story. I call it the last true unit story that has that old school unit feel, really, because Android Invasion doesn't quite feel like it because the Brigadier is in it. We'll get to that in a second. And Battlefield kind of is, but it doesn't quite feel like it because, again, you don't have Yates, you don't have Benton. You do have the Brigadier. I do consider that a unit story, but not the last true unit story, almost like where it feels like a Pertwee story. This is really, I think, the last one. And it's good. I enjoy that sometimes the Zygons that are disguised as humans, you can tell they're not humans, or at least you suspect, because they have this kind of unnerving way of looking at you, like they're pretending to be human, but they don't quite nail it. That nurse really sticks to mind, where as soon as you see her, you're suspicious of her, like, yeah. I like Terror of the Zygons a lot. I just don't quite think it's a masterpiece. Then we have Planet of Evil, which I think is the most underrated of the season. Now, don't get me wrong, I think most people consider Planet of Evil good. I don't meet that many people that dislike Planet of Evil. Most people will admit it's a really good story, but I think it's a really good story. I think it's great. I think it's fantastic. I mean, it deserves praise just for that jungle set alone. The jungle set is just amazing. That is Doctor Who production firing on all cylinders right there. That set looks marvelous. So it gets points just for that jungle set. Again, I love the moments between the Doctor and Sarah here. Tom Baker and Liz just have such good chemistry together. And it shows because the Fourth Doctor and Sarah Jane have such good chemistry together. So it's always fun when they're talking, when they're bantering. I like the special effects of the creature with the kind of red lines. I know it's kind of the id from Forbidden Planet, but it still looks really good. I like the kind of Jekyll and Hyde thing going on with the one professor and how he's desperate to keep it from happening, even though he probably knows in his mind he can't stop it. The spaceship's well designed too. I like the spaceship. It seems pretty good production values for Classic Who. I like the multiple levels they have with like the ramps and the stairways so you can go up and down. It uses its space really well. The guy playing the captain, the actor playing him, I don't really care for. And he is extremely two-dimensional. I'm in charge, I'm in charge, I'm in charge. He's definitely in charge. He's very two-dimensional. He just gets angry and yells a lot. Now his second in command I like, because he's a little more level-headed and actually pays attention to what's going on. He should be the captain, honestly. And then most of the other security people are mostly two-dimensional. You do have one that kind of cracks a few jokes, but mostly two-dimensional. Don't get a lot of character development in it, really. I do like the guy playing the professor in it, the scientist. I think he does a really good job playing the scientist. I did like him in it. The way the creature kills people is cool too. Like when you don't see anything attacking them, you just see them kind of screaming and on the ground, and then they fade away, and then when they reappear, they look like mummies almost. That's a pretty cool way they do death. I like Planet of Evil. It's the title's a little misleading, but it's a cool title, and it is a good story. And then we have Pyramids of Mars, which is a stone cold classic. That is the one story from season 13 I don't own, and I love Pyramids of Mars. It's just, excuse me, I think the Region 1 DVD is like super expensive now, understandably. So I'm really looking forward to that season 13 box set coming out whenever it gets announced. I want it. Because I love Pyramids of Mars. The only real complaint I can think of right off is that the mummies do look a bit daft. They definitely look like robots. That's really my main complaint. Again, Tom Baker and Liz are just amazing in this. That pretty much covers them like for every story. They are always good in every one of these stories. Their rapport on screen is always good in every one of these stories. That cliffhanger of episode 1, when the one guy walks out, puts his hand on the other guy and kills him with the smoke running up, I am his servant, he needs no other. It's a hell of a cliffhanger. That is a heck of a cliffhanger. Sutek is amazing. Man, Gabriel Wolf, man. When Gabriel Wolf shows up in Doctor Who, stuff is going down. Of course, he also voices the Beast in the Impossible Planet 2-parter in Series 2 of Modern Who. So he's voiced like 2 different versions of the Devil, basically. Do not get on Gabriel Wolf's bad side. So I absolutely love how he plays it in this as Sutek, where he kind of goes the opposite of Omega, whereas Omega's very booming and loud. Sutek is very quiet. He talks very softly. But what he says, you don't want to screw this. Everywhere I go, in my wake, I leave like death and destruction. And when it shows that potential future, when the Doctor shows Sarah that potential future where it's like just a desolate wasteland, that is realized really well. It's a highly effective scene. And, the Doctor's explaining to her, the future's not set in stone. It's malleable. It's in flux. The threat to everything is real. And the fact that Sutek's so powerful, the only reason he loses is because he considers the Doctor so insignificant that he just dismisses him like a roach. And luckily the Doctor is very clever. It's such a good story. Such a good story. I absolutely love that story. I wish I had that story. I love it. The Android Invasion, which I would say I consider the weakest of the season, still great. Still great. I've really come to appreciate it the past couple of years. The last time I rewatched it, which I believe was a fan vote. I know Ham voted for that one too. I think it was a Patreon vote. And I knew Ham was going to have me rewatch that because he likes that one a lot. And I ended up enjoying it more than I used to. I used to call it the weak link of the series, which if there is a weak link, I still call it that. But I really don't think there's any weak links in it. It's a strong chain through and through. It doesn't quite feel in the same vibe as the others. It's still kind of a horror story. It's kind of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but with androids. Really good androids. Even the Doctor takes a while to catch on to the fact they're androids. When you're fooling the Doctor, you're doing something right. I like when Sarah meets the Doctor, but it's actually the android toward the end. And the way the camera shot does him, where he's kind of smiling at her, and it's the android by the way the camera angle is, the way the lighting's doing on Tom's face, it's not really the Doctor. It's a really good shot. It suffers a little from not having the Brigadier in it because Nicholas Courtney wasn't there at the time. He wasn't available at the time. So that is kind of the elephant in the room. They do, explain it with him being out of town, much like in Modern Who, he's out of town. But it's still makes it not quite a true unit story to me. I am happy to see Benton and Harry back. I do wish Benton's final scene was a little better, because the last time you see real Benton, he gets knocked unconscious, and the rest of the time you just see robot Benton. I do wish they'd had one little tack-on scene where he's like, man, I got a headache, or something like that. That would have been nice. I like the guy playing the kind of astronaut with the one eye. I mean, it's kind of weird why he has to wear the eye patch. It doesn't really make sense in the explanation. Even in the novel, it's not a very good explanation. I mean, it's weird that they chance the fact he might never want to see what that looks like and take the eye patch off, like ever. It seems clunky, that one, clunky. Excuse me. I do like when the doctor tricks the robot Benton into thinking he's the robot doctor and walks off. And then when the robot one comes in, the robot Benton actually does shoot him, and he's just like, satisfied. I enjoy that. And yeah, it's a good story. And of course I love that scene when the doctor first meets the guy with the eye patch. And he's talking to him holding the map up, and he's got the map like held up here, and you can't see his face, and the doctor's just talking through the map. I mean, it's a very Fourth Doctor thing to do, a very Tom Baker thing to do, and I love it. And the doctor's like, all right, freeze, get your hands up where I can see them. The doctor's like, oh, this is the nicest things anyone's said to me since I got here. That whole scene's just hilarious. I do absolutely love that scene. It's a good story. It's a very good story. Brain of Morbius, Doctor Who's take on Frankenstein. Fantastic. Love the set design. This, of course, is the first time we are on Karn in Doctor Who, which, of course, the Doctor would go back to in Night of the Doctor. We meet the Sisterhood of Karn. And they're pretty good. I like the guy playing Solomon in it. I think that's his name, Solomon, the kind of Victor von Frankenstein character. The actor playing him does a good job. It has some little humorous moments I like, but I do like its Frankenstein take. The realization of Morbius when he is in the creature is okay. I do like it. I don't love it. It does feel like it could have been a little better, but it does still have that horror aesthetic to it. I mean, it's obviously a guy in a suit, but it works. I like it. It kind of fits that Frankenstein vibe. I think I'd have liked it better if they went with something better for the head. But other than that, I think it pulls off pretty well. I do enjoy the mental duel between the Doctor and Morbius. Because if you think about it, Morbius wins. Because while it stuns and dazes Morbius to where he's stumbling around, it flat out knocks Tom out. So as powerful and smart as Tom is, Morbius, even in that state he's in, where he's not maybe firing all thrusters and he's in that, Frankenstein body, I still feel like he won that war of wits because he was still able to be conscious and upright, and the Doctor basically got conked out. And that's pretty telling just for how powerful Morbius probably was. I mean, when you listen to them describe Morbius and the fact the Time Lords went through so much trouble to stop Morbius, you get the impression that he's like even more deadly than the Master, at least the Master in Classic Era, before the Master could like destroy all of Gallifrey somehow. That he's like an even more evil, deadly version of the Master. So I've always wanted to somehow see Morbius come back in the show and let him be like the R-rated Master. Like if the Master is the PG villain, I want to see the R-rated villain, and I feel like that's Morbius, and I want to see that. Yeah, it's a good conclusion. I like how Morbius just kind of, falls off the cliff. It's a good story. I like the Brain of Morbius. It's not one I go back and rewatch a lot, but when I do rewatch it, I really like it. And then, of course, the season finale, which is one of the best season finales in all of Doctor Who, and that is the Seeds of Doom. I love the Seeds of Doom. I love that story. I mean, the first half of it is basically The Thing before the 1982 version of The Thing, and it's great. And the fact it pulls it off so well on a classic Doctor Who budget is impressive. Now, the first half is better than the second half. The second half is still good. Still good. The guy playing Chase is a little scenery chewy, a little campy, but considering he's nuts, it kind of works. Love the guy playing Scorby. The guy playing Scorby is awesome. He's one of those villains you love to hate. You're like, I hate this guy. Man, that actor's really doing his job. Love the guy playing Scorby. Now, even the Doctor gets cross with him sometimes. He's, Scorby! I love that. I love that. I love the crinoid design, especially in the first half when it's humanoid looking, basically recolored axon outfits. I like that. You know, it almost has a seaweed look to it. That's cool. It's like a parody of a human being at that point. I love that design. Now, the design of the crinoid when it's fully grown is not as effective. It is kind of one of those, it's classic Who, you kind of got to accept it. It doesn't quite work for me. The novelization pulls it off a little better because the novelization talks about it having like hundreds of tentacles coming out, breaking into the windows and stuff. So the novelization does paint a more vivid image of that. But it's still good. It's interesting. I always get crossed that the little shredder plant doesn't have blood on it. Like we see the guard run through the little mulcher, and then afterwards there's not any blood on the blades. That always bugs me. I don't know why. It's a little nitpick, but it bugs me. And then I just love the idea of the crinoids, the idea that it's a plant-like. You know, it hatches. It's interesting because it kind of hatches like a pod from Alien, and then something comes out, gets a hold of a human, wraps around them, and then basically uses them as a host. And the pod even looks like an alien pod. And I know what you're sitting there thinking. Okay, the people who made this Doctor Who episode really liked Alien. And my response to that is, well, this episode came out in like 1975, 1976. Alien came out in 1979. So maybe the people that made Alien are just fans of Doctor Who. Maybe. Because it does kind of have that alien vibe, especially when you see the egg kind of crack open and the little thing come out. That's definitely alien vibes, you know, 3 or 4 years before Alien came out. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah, like I said, I love the Antarctic location in the first half. Really good. Very much the Thing vibes there. And the second half in the Manor is really good too. Not quite as strong as the first half, but still really good. Unit is in this story, sort of. Like, I forget a lot of times the Unit is in this story because it doesn't have any of the familiar faces we know in this story. Yates isn't, which is understandable, he's not with Unit anymore, but like Benton's not there, the Brigadier's not there, so neither of the faces and Harry's not there. So while Unit's there, they feel more like the military is there. And to be honest, I sometimes forget they're even in it. I'm like, oh yeah, Unit's in that story. So I kind of wish maybe the Brigadier and Benton could have showed up. But it's still a phenomenal story. I love The Seeds of Doom. It is a masterpiece and a classic. And of course, Tom and Liz are great. I love this season, that gothic horror vibe. If there's ever a season that proves Doctor Who pulls that off, it's this one. Doctor Who does horror so well. I mean, even in the modern show, you have episodes like the Library two-parter, Blink, The Unquiet Dead, that show just how good, you know, The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances, how good Doctor Who can do horror and suspense and can get you behind the sofa, so to speak. But this season of Classic Who does its gothic horror really well. Even when it's borrowing from other stuff like Frankenstein or The Mummy, it does its own Doctor Who spin on it and makes it work on such a strong level. I love season 13. I do think it is objectively the best season Doctor Who has ever put out. And it is my second favorite season of all time. So season 13 of Classic Doctor Who with the 4th Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith. What do you think of it and its stories? Comment down below and let me know. Other things to do, click the like button and the subscribe button and the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. I also have a Patreon that helps me keep the bills paid. I'd appreciate if you check that out. If you just have a quick minute, if you enjoy my content and watch it regularly, I appreciate anything from the bottom $2 tier to the top $20 tier to the exclusive $45 tier. Whatever tier is comfortable for you, I certainly appreciate anything. It's always nice to see someone join. I want to give a shout out to Stephen and Colin, 2 of my top tier patrons. I appreciate their continued support as I do the support of all of my patrons. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me, as well as a link to my Amazon wishlist and a link to my Amazon UK wishlist as well down in the description. Most importantly though, thank you for watching.